Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. A few years back, subhanAllah, we had a huge calamity which struck our community. We had a sister under the name of Shamima Begum leave her home, leave her house, leave everything, and join a terrorist organization, ISIS or ISIL at the time. And it caused a huge ramification in our community. And we were wondering, how is it possible that one of our sister, who is living in the UK, leave her home and go join a terrorist organization, thousands of miles away. And one of the things which came out of this was that a lot of our children, while Shamima Begum is one case where she went on one extreme, a lot of our children is going the other way, wherein they're becoming atheists or they're becoming non-practicing Muslims. And these are equally bad issues, and equally we need to look into this. And a large part of this lies on the shoulders of our fathers. Today is our last episode on why fathers matter, and we will be taking advice from both Shaikh Haitham Al Haddad and Shaikh Yusuf in how we can create the future royalties of Islam, future kings and queens of Islam, wherein we will be able to pass the mantle on to them and ensure that there is continuation of our deen, and we are raising children who are well-rounded and capable of fulfilling the da'wah of our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sheikh, we'll start with you, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Okay. What's the first advice that you would like to give to fathers in particular?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Number of things. First of all, I insist, yes, on our young brothers who are going to be fathers, and of course sisters, to learn about fatherhood in Islam. And to learn not only from a classical knowledge. Sometimes the classical knowledge is not addressing the practical steps, contextualize ways of bringing up children. They are just, maybe they mention a hadith without explanation, without contextualizing the explanation of those hadith. So they don't know how to implement these hadith or these Quranic verses in their life. This is so crucial, brothers. So crucial, brothers and sisters, please. Yeah, so education, learn. The second thing is, I always say that, of course, we need to rely on Allah Jalla wa Ala. Don't think that you can bring up your children alone without Allah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, many people think that we make dua as just as a barakah. Not only as a barakah. In fact, Allah Jalla wa Ala is the one who will look after your children. Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad, when he one time, he was making dua because he felt that he's unable to guide his children as they should be. He said, Ya Allah, I have done my job as a father. Ya Allah, it is up to you to guide them. So, Ya Allah, I beg you to guide them. I have done my job. So, which means that you do your job, but mainly rely on Allah Jalla wa Ala. And that's why, brothers and sisters, we see, subhanallah, that almost all prophets, except one, those prophets who were mentioned in the Quran and their children were also mentioned, we find that those prophets made dua for their children. The first one is Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was mentioned in the Quran, his offspring mentioned in the Quran, he used to make dua for them. Yes? قال رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا إني أسكنت من ذريتي بواد غير ذي زرع عند بيتك المحرم ربنا ليقيموا الصلاة فاجعل أفئدة من الناس تهوي إليهم, and so on and so forth. زكريا قال رب هب لي من لدنك ذرية طيبة إنك سميع الدعاء. Even Maryam, who is not a prophet, she made dua for her children, and she had Isa alayhi salam. Now, of course, except to Nuh alayhi salam, it was not mentioned that he made dua for his child. And if we say that that person who went astray was his child, according to many mufassirin, his child went astray. So please, brothers, make dua. Remember, in Surah Al-Furqan that talks about believers and the qualities of believers, at the end, Allah Jalla wa'ala mentioned the qualities of believers right at the end. Yes, وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. They make specific dua for their spouses and therefore and for their offspring. So this is so important. By the way, I always quote this, subhanallah. A brother, he went astray. Yeah, he went astray. And he said, what brought me back to the deen? He said, I used to wake up in the middle of the night. Yeah, going to the toilet, and I used to see my father awake, either doing dua or praying. And after some time, I started to think of myself, why he was doing that alone? No one was watching him. Why? There has to be something. And that brought me to the deen. I have so many stories of brothers and sisters who went astray. And then they say, we don't know. All of a sudden, something inside is telling us, go back to your parents. And this is the dua. This is the power of dua. So brothers and sisters, don't neglect that. The third one, I will stop here. See, it is so important for the father to ensure that there is a unity of vision between him and his wife. Yes? And I insist on this unity of vision for fathers and mothers. See, brothers and sisters, if children will capitalize on the differences of the parents, yeah, whether you say that they are smart, they do this subconsciously, whatever. But if there is no unity of vision, there will be no proper tarbiyah. Yes. No proper tarbiyah. I want my children to be religious, my wife doesn't. Or the wife says, I want my children to be religious, and the father doesn't care. The children will not grow up in a sound way, in a healthy environment. This is so crucial for the success of the family. This is so crucial for the success of what? Of the children. Yeah, just because of time. Yeah. Yes.
Jazakumullah khairan, Sheikh. And Sheikh Yusuf will come to you, bi'idhnillah.
So just three really brief points. One is about praise. Praise is a form of love. Like sometimes children who go without feeling praise from their fathers, they feel like a vulnerability, they feel like a weakness, something's lacking in their life. So we should use praise very carefully in terms of how do we utilize praise to build positive behaviors in our children. So, if you say to anybody, if they're doing something and you say, you did it really well, your effort you put into doing that, into memorizing that ayah of the Quran, or into looking after your brothers and sisters, if they did an action and you praise them, that encourages them to do it more. Because everybody, no matter who they are, if they're praised, it's in our nature that we think, oh wow. Obviously, it doesn't build arrogance. It shouldn't build arrogance within us, but it makes us feel good that look, we've done something that somebody's recognized, and it encourages you to do it more. For example, somebody says to you, oh look, you've never spoken about this subject before. This is the first time you spoke about it. You did really well. I think you should do it more. That encourages you. Yeah. Definitely. So we should think about our children and about utilizing praise in order to encourage good behavior. Now, sometimes as fathers, we can become very negative because of the nature of our dynamic in the household, where we start to say, you did that wrong, you did that wrong. And so all the time, maybe 90% of the time, we're saying, why did you do that? Why did you do that? And so rather than focusing on the positive, we're focusing on the negative. And almost all the time when we focus on a negative, it has an opposite effect to what you want to achieve. So if you want to cultivate your children's a particular aspect of their life, When they do something well, say the effort you put into that was really good. Well done. I'm really proud of you. That will encourage your children to do that more. Also, think about think about a dynamic with your child's mother. Yeah, because in the household, as Sheikh said, we're working as a team. We've got unified vision. We need to think about how do we ensure that we're not necessarily building a perfect a household where nobody makes mistakes, but think about the dynamic with your child's mother. I remember I read this quote once upon a time. It was really good actually. It says, the best thing you can do for your daughter is to love her mother. Yeah, and it's almost like when you love her mother, when you show how a father should treat, how a husband should treat his wife, that also builds within the daughter an understanding, like a high bar. This is my future husband. My future husband is going to be of this type. I'm not going to fall for the first boy who comes to me and says, "Oh, you're beautiful," and I'm not going to fall for that line, because I'm emotionally stronger than that, because I've seen what a father does in the household. But thirdly, spending time. One thing which is really undervalued in the household, spending time with your children. This is really important. You get to know them in a way that you don't get to know them in any other circumstance. So you spend time with your child. Maybe they like playing games. Play a game with them. Yeah? They like computer games. You don't like computer games. Just play a game with them. They like playing football. Play football with them. And also focus on one-to-one time. You find out about your child in a unique way by spending that quality one-to-one time with them. You say to them, "Look, I'm going out. Come with me," and you just spend time talking. Yeah, they talk about things that have happened in their life, and you find out about things about what they like, what they don't like. You find out, they may say, "Oh, I was at school and this happened." You may not have ever have heard that without having spent time with them. So I think those three things: using praise to encourage positive reinforcement, positive behavior. Think about a dynamic with your with your child's mother. And then thirdly, think about spending quality time with your children.
Jazakumullah khair, both of you. One thing which I wanted to mention just very briefly is communication. Talk to your children, because communication is a skill. And like every skill, it needs to be practiced. When you started driving, you were scared, a bit worried, but now, alhamdulillah, you can drive metaphorically with your eyes closed. But however, it's the same thing. If you can't talk to your children about the small things, you will not be able to talk to them about the big things. So you said, "Why did my children not come to me?" When something bad has happened, you would say, "Why hasn't my children come to me? Why did they come speak to me?" Because you never spoke to them about the small things. They will never be able to come speak to you about the big things if you don't talk to them about the small things. But Jazakumullah khairan, both of you, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you abundantly for this amazing series. We hope that you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make a strong family unit. The family unit is the backbone of the Muslim Ummah. And if the family unit was to go, the Muslim Ummah would go with it. And the enemies of Islam are very acutely aware of this. And they are trying everything in their power in order to be able to destroy this family unit. So it's upon us. But alhamdulillah, the enemies of Islam, they have everything but Allah. We have nothing but Allah. So we don't need to worry about this. We need to do what Allah Jalla wa Ala has ordered us to do, and His Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has ordered us to do, and Allah Jalla wa Ala will take care of the rest. So we need to learn to be active fathers. We need to learn to be there for our children, and we need to be there to raise our children to become, as I mentioned, the future royalties of Islam. The marriage family is not something which is man-made. It is divinely appointed and divinely ordained. And it is a amana that has been given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to learn to take care of it. Jazakumullah khairan, all of you, for watching. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. And we ask Allah once again to make us a strong family unit and allow us to be able to carry out the responsibility that has been given to us by our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.